Hey everybody, just want to show you what I did today. This is my 11 console semi-auto switching setup for my game room here. I've got 10 consoles plus a Laserdisc player, to be honest with you. So I've got my N64, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 1, GameCube, Dreamcast, Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, regular Nintendo. Down there is a Wii, an Xbox, and a Laserdisc player. And I'm going to show you how I switch between all of them and the setup that I like and prefer. And also, caveat, my Xbox doesn't have a power cable, so I won't be showing that one off. But the solution that I decided to go with was multiple AV switchers, because I found that if I just had all of these on my shelf like a collection, I was very reluctant to pull them down and actually hook them up. I just want a plug-and-play solution. I understand a lot of people would want the opposite, just to avoid the nest of wires, but not for this guy. So let's take a look at this. Okay, so here we are at the mess behind my TV, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 AV switchers, and this is the setup I went with. This is a automatic AV switcher, meaning between these 4 inputs, if it's detecting a signal on any of them, it will automatically switch to them. So this is the one that connects directly to my TV, and it auto switches between these 3. And then from there, each one of these, as you can see, has 4 consoles connected to it. Super Nintendo, Sega, PlayStation 1 and 2. This one only has 2. It's my NES and my Wii. This one has 4, my Nintendo 64, GameCube, Dreamcast, and Xbox. And then this right here is my Laserdisc player going directly in here. I just wanted to make sure I had the cleanest signal possible. I'm sure a lot of you are aware I'm worried about signal loss going through not 1, but 2 boxes into the TV. I'm willing to put up with that maybe a bit for video games, but I don't want to risk it for movies, so my Laserdisc player goes there. The other thing you'll notice is I actually label these. I highly recommend labeling both ends of your AV and power cables. Makes life way simpler. So I don't have any good spot in my room for these to go, like on a shelf or something. So for now, I just have them wedged in behind my TV. And what I've done is I've made it so slot number 1 is my most played systems. So which happens to be my Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and Nintendo 64. Those are just the ones I grew up with. So I made those the primaries on each of these like secondary boxes so that I could take advantage of the auto switching in this box here. So I'm going to demonstrate that right now. I'm going to turn on my Super Nintendo, and when that happens, the input switches to number 3 automatically. And I'll turn on my regular Nintendo, and you'll see that input number 1 switches on automatically. And then lastly, I turn on my Nintendo 64. And you'll see that switches automatically. Notice Nintendo 64 actually takes a couple seconds for some reason. I'm not sure why. So anyway, I like that setup because if these are my 3 primary systems and I have all of these boxes behind the TV, that's kind of a pain, but I can just walk up to any of these 3 and I can assume that these are all set to number 1 like they usually are, and just power them on and I'm good to go. Then after that, I broke out my auxiliary ones here. And I think this pairing kind of makes sense. It was a little arbitrary, like whatever. I don't play my Xbox very much, I don't play my Wii very much, and I don't play my PS2 very much, so I just moved those to the end. And then my some of the time systems I put in between. So now I figured I'd demonstrate it. So I have my regular Nintendo on, and the auto switcher's on AV1. And I'm going to go over and turn on the Super Nintendo now. You'll see it automatically switched over to the Super Nintendo. Now that that's running, I'm going to go turn the Nintendo 64 on. What you may notice is it didn't automatically switch over to the Nintendo 64. And I've noticed that sometimes if it's already on an AV source that has a signal, depending on the new signal coming on, it seems like it may or may not switch over to it. So in order to get over to the N64, I have to turn off the Super Nintendo, and you'll see that the regular NES is running too. And it was always running. So I assume that means the AV switcher is likely to switch to a source with a new signal. If I switch off the N64, and likewise, let's see what happens when I put on a Laserdisc. So you see I hit the eject button on the Laserdisc, which opened up the player, and it did automatically switch over the video input. Yeah. So now if I wanted to do something like put on the Dreamcast, I'll hit power on the Dreamcast, and nothing switched over because the secondary box for that set is not set for Dreamcast. So I'm going to go to the back of the TV, hit the Dreamcast button, and you'll see nothing switched. So it's that scenario I'm talking about again. So I'm going to go turn off the Laserdisc player, and here we see that the Dreamcast has come on. Likewise for the Sega Genesis, that's a secondary for my box where Super Nintendo is the first display. I go up, I hit the Sega Genesis button, it automatically switches there. So there you have it, a little nuts, a definite mess. I think the video signal's pretty clean. I'd say for the most part I'm not noticing any signal degradation at all. Are you tired of the new internet? You know I am. It's time to get the old net. Head on over to theoldnet.com to get your fill of classic 90s internet. Check out GeoCities homepages, AOL member pages, Zoom, AngelFire. Check out our web ring. Even head on over to our guest book, and when you're finished there, why don't you try out some of our awesome apps? Do you have a vintage computer with a serial port? Did you know that you can connect it to the internet over Wi-Fi? Head on over to the Modem Depot to get your RS-232 Wi-Fi modem for vintage computers. Head on over to theoldnet.com/store for more details.